Okay, what's going on, my people? Welcome back to another video on Anas Talks Crypto, and today we're going to talk a bit about the charts. You know, we all know what's happening in the Bitcoin space. Bitcoin is going all haywire, hitting new all-time highs. It's at a level that we all knew it was going to reach, but to actually see it happen in reality is insane, right? And the price now has been oscillating. You know, it topped out at 104k, and then now oscillating between 98k, going to as high as 104,000, and now staying sort of static at that level for the last few days. Big question is, what's going to happen from here onwards, and no one knows what's going to happen. Is it just going to go and capitulate downwards, or is it going to continue going up? No one knows, but there are some things that some indicators that we can use in order to figure out, get a flavor for what is happening in the market right now. And one of those indicators is the relative strength index. So why are these indicators important? Because now we're hitting new all-time highs, and this is going to create a huge amount of hype where new people who have not been in the cryptocurrency space are going to start entering and putting their money in. And it is usually at this time where things become a little bit more concerning, because we all know that when everyone knows about a thing, then it's probably, it can feel like it is too late to get in on it. You also see lots of people discussing indicators to try and predict what's going to happen next. And for me anyway, I want to understand what these indicators mean, okay? As part of learning and improvement, you want to sort of know, where do these indicators derive from? And today we're going to talk about the relative strength index as a way of understanding and trying to know what's going to happen next. Relative strength index, RSI, what is it? It's essentially it is a measure of the speed and the momentum and the amount of change that has happened in the market, often in the last 14 days. So if you go on TradingView, you can go up top left, click on relative strength index. It will bring up a little a chart at the bottom of your main chart with a graph plotting, trying to give you an indication of what's going on in the last 14 days, and then it plots a line. And this is important because what it suggests is that the price has been moving up, at least in the sort of short term, and the price can't keep moving up forever. It needs to sort of come down, and then it moves up, and the market keeps oscillating like that. It can't just keep going up. When you get a higher relative strength index, oftentimes what it suggests is that whatever currency, crypto or stock is overbought, and you are in a sort of fairly risky space at that time. Whereas on the other hand, if the momentum has been downwards and the change in price has been downwards, and if the price has been changing by a bigger amount, going down, then it is probably that, okay, soon maybe the price is going to start moving upwards. So this is what the relative strength index is. And so how is it calculated? Well, the way it's calculated is by taking, most often, the last 14 days and taking the price change. So how do you do that? So you take every single day that the price has gone up, and you figure out how much it's gone up by. So say, for example, the price on day one was for Bitcoin was 95k, and then on day 2 it was 96k, and then on day 3 it was 97k, right? So that means that between day 1 and day 2, from 95 to 96, it's gone up by 1k, and between day 2 to day 3 it's gone up by another 1k. All right, and then there'll be some days where the price has gone down from 95, it will gone down to 94. Then one needs to figure out the relative strength, and the relative strength or the RS is the average gain over the average loss. So the way you figure out the average gain is how much it's gone up by divided by 14, so that's the average gain, and then you take the average loss, how much it's gone down by, and divided by 14. And when you take both of those and you divide them by each other, the average gain divided by average loss, you get the RS, the relative strength. So if we take our example and we say that over the 9 days that Bitcoin price has been going up over the last 14 days, it's gone up by a total of 12,000, right? So then you take the 12,000 divided by 14, what does that give you? 0.85. And then it's over the other 5 days, 5 divided by 14, 0.35. If you take then the average gain divided by the average loss, so 0.85 divided by 0.35, that will give you 2.4. And you realize here, if the number that you get for the relative strength is more than 1, then it is an upward trend. And if it's less than 1, it will be a downward. But you need to plug it into the relative strength index calculator. Now, once you plug that in and you get your number, all right, and you can see the formula here, then you eventually get a number which is 0 to 100. Now, let's step into the charts. So right now we're in the charts, and you can see here that we've got the Bitcoin chart open for Coinbase. And if you go here on the top left corner, you can go on here and open the relative strength index, and it will give you this graph here at the bottom. Okay, we're on the daily chart here, and now you can see here this line that gets plotted to give you over a period of time what the relative index has been each day. So now within this RSI, you get two lines in between which it's supposed to be, not overbought and not oversold. If you are above this line of 70, then, we are supposedly overbought. And if we're under this line of 30, then we are oversold. That is the general gist of it. But this doesn't, it's not necessarily true, okay? But it is true sometimes. So if here, for example, we can see that at its highest, when the relative strength index was at its highest back in March 2024 or February 2024, then, the price here, which was at its high, when the RSI was the highest, the price of Bitcoin was, 68K, and it did continue rallying a bit, even though it was quite high, up to 73, 74K. And then as the RSI started to drop, then the price also dropped. So now this means that even though the RSI, the indicator itself, is at its top, it doesn't mean that, whatever market you're in is about to drop as well. It can continue going higher for a while, but a general downward will be coming soon is what's indicated, because we started at a very high RSI, it went up for a bit, then it started dropping again. Point number 2 that is important to understand is that, the RSI can spend, this is quite linked to the previous point, the RSI can spend quite a lot of time in this area before, dropping. So here in this area, you might feel, while the RSI is over 70, that it's not a great time to buy, right? But Bitcoin's at 51K while the RSI is quite high here. And if you had decided not to buy anything, or you've decided to sell, then you would have missed this whole upward trend here over the following, month, right? Where the price went from 52K to 73K, even though the RSI was still overbought for that whole time. So just because the RSI is high doesn't mean that it is, a time to sell, and doesn't mean that it's not a time to buy. All right, but in general, it is a generally risky space. The other way where the RSI, might not necessarily be helpful is that you might decide to buy here when the RSI is high and sell here when the RSI is low. And so you would have still made some money, because while the RSI here was high and Bitcoin was at 52K, right? And then you went to when the RSI went low, fairly low, not less than 30, but still quite low. Then the price of Bitcoin was 57K, the price still went up overall. So this is another pitfall here, where, you know, you can't take this indicator at 100% value. However, right, this is where this, you know, this RSI becomes incredibly helpful. And it is that, generally speaking, when the RSI is less than 30, then it is generally a good time to buy. I mean, this is what the chart says. So if you look here, you know, if you are in August 2023, all right, on the daily chart, Bitcoin was at 24K when the RSI was at less than 30. And then obviously, if you had decided to hold and continue holding, right, to when the RSI is high, you would have, you know, you would have 4x'd. In general, if when the RSI is low, okay, if you decide to have bought in June 2024, when the price was at 57K, then you would have got the up, or the almost a 2x for when the RSI was high again till now. Let's move back a bit in the charts. So if you decide to buy here when the RSI again is low at less than 30 in May 2021, and you had just decided to ride out this whole area between May 2021 to July 2021, then you would have caught the upward trend all the way here up to, you know, from 28,000 to 70,000. All right. So, you know, what you see and what becomes incredibly helpful is that when the RSI is, you know, less than 30, then it is generally quite a good time to buy. Now, because we are in a bull market, as you can see here, you know, we are trending, we have been trending for a long time now upwards since January 2023. We're just going up, you know, waiting for the RSI to go to less than 30. You know, I don't know whether that is right or wrong, but anyway, that's just taking the RSI as a tool. Then, you know, generally speaking, you can derive that when it is less than 30, then it is quite a good time to buy.